You are standing inside Khalifa International Stadium, and Spain will not give you the ball. The blue shirts around you chase shadows. The clock keeps moving. Spain passes left, right, backward, forward, as if the match belongs to them by natural law. Then halftime ends, Japan changes shape, and within 6 minutes the world turns upside down. Ritsu Doan scores. Ao Tanaka scores. Japan, a country that did not appear at a World Cup until 1998, has beaten Spain and finished above both Spain and Germany in its group. How did football travel that far, that fast? The easy answer is discipline. It is also the lazy answer. Japan did not become a football nation because its players simply ran harder, obeyed better, or made fewer mistakes. Japan became a football nation because it rebuilt almost everything around the game. The league, the clubs, the coaches, the schools, the youth system, the relationship with local communities, and even the idea of what a Japanese player could become. To understand that transformation, you have to leave Qatar and travel back more than 60 years. You arrive in Japan in 1960. Football exists, but it lives behind baseball in the national imagination. Many leading teams are connected to large companies, and players often balance sport with ordinary employment. Then a German coach named Dietmar Kramer arrives. Kramer has been invited to help Japan prepare for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, but his influence reaches far beyond one tournament. He emphasizes basic technique, coach education, regular competition, and development from a young age. The Japan Football Association later calls him the father of modern Japanese football. Why would one coach matter so much? Because Kramer does not only train the national team, he trains the people who will train the next generation. He helps plant the idea that improvement cannot depend on one gifted group of players appearing by accident. Japan reaches the quarterfinals at the 1964 Olympics. 4 years later, in Mexico City, the team wins an Olympic bronze medal, with Kunishige Kamamoto scoring twice against the host nation in the third-place match. For a moment, you can see a future. Then the future slows down. The corporate team structure keeps the sport alive, but it does not create the same weekly culture that professional leagues are building elsewhere. Stadiums do not consistently feel like civic homes. Clubs are often identified with employers before neighborhoods, and talented players have limited routes into full-time professional football. Japan has a national team. It does not yet have a national football ecosystem. That difference becomes impossible to ignore during the 1980s. Television brings European and South American football closer. Japanese players and officials can see the speed of the international game, the pressure, the technical quality, and the crowded stadiums. So the question changes. Instead of asking how Japan can produce one competitive national team, people begin asking how Japan can make football part of everyday life. Saburo Kowabuchi becomes one of the central figures in that shift. A former national team player who had learned under Kramer, he helps drive the professionalization movement that leads to the J.League. The plan is more radical than simply paying players. The new clubs are expected to belong to places. They need hometowns, youth teams, supporters, local identities, and roots that can survive beyond one company's marketing budget. Football must become something a child can watch on Saturday, play on Sunday, and dream about on Monday morning. On May 15th, 1993, the J.League opens in front of 59,626 people at the National Stadium. You can hear the declaration. You can see the flags. You can feel a sport presenting a new version of itself to the country. The league begins with 10 clubs, and famous foreign players arrive to give it immediate credibility. Zico joins Kashima Antlers. Gary Lineker plays for Nagoya Grampus 8. Pierre Litbarski appears for Jeff United Ichihara. Ramon Diaz plays for Yokohama Marinos. But the stars are not merely decoration. They raise the daily standard of training. They demonstrate movement, preparation, recovery, and professionalism. Young Japanese players no longer need to imagine what an elite footballer looks like from a distant television broadcast. They can stand beside one. Kazuyoshi Miura becomes the league's first great domestic symbol. After developing in Brazil, he returns with flair, confidence, and the presence of a player who believes Japan belongs in the wider football world. Suddenly, children have local heroes. Stadiums have songs. Shirts have colors that mean more than the name of a corporation. Is that enough to create a World Cup team? Not immediately. At the same time, Dutch coach Hans Ooft takes charge of the national side. He teaches compact lines, which means keeping the defenders, midfielders, and forwards close enough to support one another. He uses passing triangles, simple three-player angles that give the player on the ball more than one safe option. These ideas sound basic. That is precisely why they matter. Japan has technical players, but Ooft tries to make 11 individuals move as one connected unit. In 1992, Japan wins the Asian Cup for the first time. The following year, the country approaches World Cup qualification with a confidence it has never felt before. Then comes Doha. You are in the final minutes against Iraq in October 1993. Japan leads 2-1. A victory will send the team to the 1994 World Cup. The ball enters the penalty area. Iraq equalizes in stoppage time. The match ends 2-2, and Japan misses qualification. The moment becomes known as the Agony of Doha. It hurts because the dream is no longer distant. It is close enough to touch, which means it is close enough to lose. But this collapse reveals something important. The new league has already changed the scale of national attention. The country now understands exactly what has been taken away. 4 years later, the pressure is heavier. Japan begins the decisive stage of qualification for the 1998 World Cup under Shu Kamo, but inconsistent results create panic. Kamo is dismissed during the campaign. His assistant, Takeshi Okada, takes over with the entire project trembling around him. Everything leads to a playoff against Iran in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. The score is 2-2 in extra time. Japan attacks again. The goalkeeper saves, but Masayuki Okino reaches the rebound and scores. This time, the late moment belongs to Japan. You can draw a straight line from Doha to Johor Bahru, but the real transformation is happening underneath both matches. More children are playing. More coaches are being educated. More professional clubs are building academies. More Japanese players are learning that football can be a career rather than an interruption to a different career. At France 1998, the results are painful. Japan loses all 3 group matches. Masashi Nakayama scores the country's first World Cup goal against Jamaica, but the tournament ends without a point. Was the project exposed? No. It was measured. The World Cup shows Japan the exact distance still separating domestic progress from international quality. Instead of treating qualification as the finish line, the country turns it into a starting line. Hideyoshi Nakata becomes crucial to the next stage. He moves to Italy and proves that a Japanese midfielder can survive in Serie A, then one of the most demanding leagues in the world. His success changes ambition at home. A path opens. Japanese players begin leaving earlier, adapting faster, and returning to the national team with experience from different football cultures. The national side becomes a meeting point between domestic development and overseas education. French coach Philippe Troussier adds another layer. He works across Japan's youth and senior teams, helping connect generations rather than treating each squad as a separate emergency. Japan finishes runner-up at the 1999 FIFA World Youth Championship, reaches the Confederations Cup final in 2001, and enters the 2002 Home World Cup with real expectations. Now you are inside a stadium that no longer feels borrowed. Japan beats Russia. Japan draws with Belgium. Japan defeats Tunisia and reaches the round of 16 for the first time. The run ends against Turkey, but the tournament proves that the J.League era has produced more than excitement. It has produced infrastructure, depth, supporters, trained coaches, and players who no longer look overwhelmed by the stage. Yet Japan still refuses to choose only one foreign model. Brazilian influence brings technique and imagination. Dutch coaching brings structure and spacing. French and Balkan coaches add organization and tactical flexibility. Players moving to Germany learn pressing, which means hunting the ball quickly as a coordinated group. Players in Spain absorb positional play, the art of occupying different spaces so the ball always has a route forward. What is Japanese football, then? It is not a copy. It is a system for collecting ideas, testing them, and making them fit Japanese conditions. That is the counterintuitive twist. Japan's strongest identity is not one formation or one style. It is reinvention itself. You can see the benefits, but you can also see the ceiling. Japan reaches the round of 16 in 2010. It does it again in 2018 when Genki Haraguchi and Takashi Inoue give the team a 2-0 lead over Belgium. For a few minutes, a first World Cup quarterfinal appears close. Then Belgium responds. The match becomes stretched, meaning both teams have space to attack because the lines between defense and midfield are growing wider. Belgium scores 3 times, with the winner arriving from a devastating counterattack in the final seconds. Japan loses 3-2. It is another Doha, but at a higher level. In 1993, the heartbreak comes from failing to reach the World Cup. In 2018, it comes from nearly defeating one of the strongest teams at the World Cup. The pain looks similar, but the distance traveled is enormous. 4 years later, Hajime Moriyasu brings a squad to Qatar filled with players shaped by the system Japan spent decades building. Many compete in Europe. Several know German football intimately. They are technically secure, tactically flexible, and comfortable changing the match from the bench. Against Germany, Japan falls behind, survives, adjusts, and wins 2-1. Against Spain, the pattern repeats. Moriyasu changes the structure at halftime. Japan presses more aggressively, closes passing routes, and attacks before Spain can reorganize. Doan equalizes. Tanaka scores the winner after Kaoru Maitoma keeps the ball alive by the smallest visible margin. Japan finishes first in the group. Then Costa Rica and Croatia remind you that reinvention does not guarantee consistency. Japan loses to Costa Rica in the group and later falls to Croatia on penalties in the round of 16. The quarterfinal barrier remains. But the central story is no longer whether Japan belongs. The question is how far Japan can go. That change did not begin with one miracle in Qatar. It began with Kramer teaching coaches, with Kawabuchi imagining clubs rooted in communities, with Ooft organizing passing triangles, with Zico raising standards, with Miura becoming a national icon, with Okada surviving a qualification crisis, and with generations of children entering a structure that did not exist before them. You now return to Khalifa International Stadium. Spain still has the ball. Germany still has the history. The traditional powers still possess deeper World Cup memories, but Japan possesses something built over decades. A league connected to communities, a development pathway connected to schools and academies, players connected to the strongest leagues abroad, and a national team comfortable learning from defeat without becoming defined by it. The blue shirts are no longer chasing someone else's game. They are showing you how a football nation can invent itself, lose itself, and invent itself again.